Everyone tells you to work hard, stay positive, and wait for your time. But what if I told you that's exactly why most people never succeed? In this video, we're exposing the raw, unfiltered truth Tony Robbins lives by but never says outright, the Machiavellian secret to success. No one dares to teach you. Power comes to those who take it, not wait for it. If you wait to be chosen, you've already lost. Tony Robbins creates opportunities. He doesn't chase them. Emotion is a weapon, not a weakness. Control your emotions or your enemies will. Fear, pain, and hunger are tools to command, not run from. The frame is the game. Whoever controls the context controls the outcome. Reframe failure into fuel and people will follow you. Success is strategy, not hope. Robbins isn't lucky, he is methodical. Every move is engineered with outcome in mind. Decisiveness dominates hesitation. Machiavelli said delay is dangerous. Robbins proves it. Fast, focused action separates leaders from the masses. Identity is built, not found. Tony says change your story, change your life. In truth, forge your identity, rewrite it, control it. Certainty is power, even when you fake it. Most people follow those who look like they know. Tony teaches, project certainty and reality bends. Control the inner battlefield. Robbins trains like a warrior. His battlefield is within. You can't dominate the world until you master your mind. Influence is engineered through emotion. Want loyalty? Want clients? Want power? Learn to make people feel. Influence is manipulation done right. Massive action is ruthless, not romantic. Consistency is cute. Robbins doesn't dabble, he attacks. Not soft steps, relentless, tactical execution. You've been told to wait, to be patient, to trust in divine timing, that your turn will come. They teach you to be hopeful, to sit silently in the corner of life, clapping politely while others dominate the stage. But what if I told you, the very advice that sounds noble is the reason most people die with regret? This idea that power, opportunity, success will one day knock on your door if you're simply kind enough, if you work hard enough, if you just believe enough, is not only wrong, it's lethal, because life doesn't reward the patient, it rewards the bold, the strategic, the ones who see. Tony Robbins didn't wait for success, he engineered it. He didn't pray for a stage, he built one from scratch, out of pain, out of fire, out of obsession. You think he was born lucky? You think he stumbled into influence, millions, global impact? No. What he understood, long before the world caught on, was that success is not about being chosen, it's about choosing yourself. Power isn't granted, it's taken, and no one gives it willingly. That's where most people fail. They keep asking for permission to dream, to act, to become, but the powerful, they don't ask. They take the risk, they endure the storm, they sharpen the blade, they walk into rooms knowing, I don't need to be liked, I need to be respected. Tony mastered this. He learned that if you wait to be picked, you'll rot in place, because the world doesn't reward fairness, it rewards force, not physical, but psychological, energetic, spiritual, strategic. Now listen closely, because this is where it gets real. Most people hope to get rich. They wish to be free. They try to be disciplined, and that's the exact reason they remain average. Hope, wish, try. That language is soft, it's passive, it's powerless. Tony Robbins cut that language out of his mind like a tumor. He replaced it with words that ignite war. Must. Now take, claim, dominate. He didn't build his empire on one day. He built it on today. Every hour, every rep, every seminar was an act of conquest. Even his voice, his presence, it's not smooth, it's not pleasing, it's commanding, because he's not there to entertain, he's there to lead. That's what power does. It doesn't wait, it doesn't check if the room is ready, it enters and takes up space. But here's where you come in. This message isn't about Tony, it's about you. The question is not, will life give me a chance? It's, do I have the fire to take what I know is mine? If you're waiting, you're fading. If you're asking, you're already losing, because the high performers, the world shapers, the kings and queens of their own domain, they don't wait to be told who they are. They decide, and then they prove it daily. They don't beg, they broadcast. They don't doubt, they declare. Every word they speak is carved with certainty. Every step they take is deliberate. Tony Robbins didn't get to the top by being gentle with his dreams. He wasn't polite with his ambition. He wasn't soft with his standards. He went to war with himself, with his past, with the stories society fed him, and he rewrote every line. You think power is about having money? That's not power, that's a result. You think it's about followers? That's just noise. True power is the ability to bend reality, to influence minds, to command energy, to shape time itself through action and intensity. Tony isn't rich because of what he has. He's rich because of what he controls. And that starts with one truth. Power does not belong to the passive. It belongs to the predator, to the ruthless creator, to the one who acts without waiting for applause. Now maybe you've been taught to be modest, to stay humble, to let others go first. But tell me this, Where has that gotten you? You've been trained to survive, not to dominate. You've been taught to adapt, not to assert. And it shows in your bank account, in your health, in your emotions, in your relationships. You're playing defense and pretending it's strategy. But Robbins teaches the opposite. He doesn't wait for the market to change. He moves it. He doesn't ask how others feel. He decides how they feel. That's not manipulation, that's leadership. Because power is not evil. Waiting is power builds nations. Waiting destroys them. Power liberates families. Waiting buries them in debt. Power creates opportunity. Waiting kills it before it ever breathes. So if you want to embody this truth, you must decide today to stop waiting for signs. You are the sign. You must stop praying for doors and start building walls that others knock on. You must stop acting like you need permission. There is no judge, no master, no gatekeeper. There is only you and your will, your fire, your force, your action. Tony Robbins knew he was powerful before anyone believed him. That's why they eventually did. He saw himself on global stages before he had shoes that fit. He felt the weight of destiny before the world ever knew his name, because he understood that if you want to be powerful, you must act like it, speak like it, move like it before anyone hands it to you, because no one will. The ones in power today, they took it, they claimed it, they stopped waiting, they started moving, and you're no different unless you choose to be. That's the part no one tells you, the secret, the lie buried in self-help quotes and cute captions, that success doesn't come from journaling and vision boards alone. It comes from acts of war, daily attacks on comfort, relentless pushes against fear, strategic elimination of weakness. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you enforce. Power is enforcement of standards, of rituals, of belief, of action. Tony doesn't hope people will follow him. He commands presence because he commands himself. He doesn't fear judgment because he's already judged himself harder than anyone else ever could. And that's the key. The world will always test you, mock you, ignore you, doubt you, until you decide, I am the one who chooses. I am not waiting. This is not motivational fluff. This is blood. This is truth. This is what separates you from being a spectator to your own life, until you believe, and more importantly, act as if no one is coming to save you, because they're not. That's when power begins. That's when life bends. That's when people start listening, because they don't hear your words. They feel your presence, and presence is the first form of power. So stop hoping, start hunting, stop waiting, start taking. You've waited long enough. You were told to hide your emotions, to silence them, to control them by ignoring them, to act tough, cold, neutral, as if the absence of emotion is the sign of true strength. But what if I told you that everything you've been taught about emotion was designed to make you weak, to tame you, to neutralize your fire, to keep you manageable, controllable, forgettable? Emotion is not weakness. Emotion is power. It is a force that moves armies, topples empires, builds nations, and destroys them, but only if you know how to wield it. Tony Robbins didn't succeed by numbing himself. He didn't become a global force by staying calm and quiet. He became unstoppable because he understood one simple law of the human condition, the one nobody dares to teach in schools or boardrooms. Emotion is the fuel of influence. It is the foundation of decision. It is the heartbeat of power. Because the truth is, logic doesn't move people. Emotion does. People don't buy from you because of a spreadsheet. They buy because you made them feel something. People don't follow leaders because of rational alignment. They follow because their emotions were ignited. And yet here you are, trying to suppress yours, tucking them under your bed like a dirty secret, trying to survive by being collected, trying to endure by being calm, as if restraint is always noble, as if detachment is always wise. But that's not what power looks like. Not when you study the greats, not when you study Robbins, because he understood that emotion is not the enemy. Emotion is the ultimate weapon. It can lift you into an unstoppable state or crush you under its heel. The weak are ruled by emotion, the strong command it. You have to see the difference. Tony doesn't pretend fear doesn't exist. He welcomes it. He invites it to the table. He stares it down and says, I own you now. He doesn't run from anger. He rides it. He transforms it into momentum, into words that slice through mediocrity, into energy that moves thousands, into certainty that makes people weep. Rise, follow, act. That is mastery, not avoidance, not numbness, but control, because emotion is energy in motion, and when you learn how to harness that, you become nuclear. You don't just influence, you command. People walk into Tony's seminars depressed, broken, burned out. They walk out 10 feet tall, not because he gave them facts, but because he reached into their emotional core and flipped the switch. He turned their pain into purpose, their fear into fuel, their confusion into clarity, not by eliminating emotion, but by using it as leverage. And if you're sitting here wondering why you feel stuck, why your goals feel flat, why your habits fall apart, it's because your emotions are ruling you. Instead of reporting to you, you've let fear make decisions. You've let doubt negotiate your standards. You've let comfort silence your hunger. And the lie you've been sold is that if you just learn more, think more, plan better, then one day you'll figure it out. But power doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from emotional domination. It comes from building rituals that train your nervous system to respond with fire, not fear. Tony knows this. That's why he doesn't start his day scrolling a phone. He starts it moving, breathing, screaming into life, training his state before it trains him.
Because emotion is a state, and state is a weapon, and the most dangerous person in the room is the one who can control their state, regardless of the chaos around them. The market crashes, they stay sharp. The business burns, they stay focused. The betrayal cuts deep, they stay standing. Not because they're numb, but because they've turned pain into preparation. Because they've built a system, a fortress, where emotion doesn't sabotage their mind, it serves it. And that's the difference between a follower and a leader, a victim and a king, a talker and a doer. You think Tony Robbins doesn't feel fear before an event? You think he doesn't have doubt before changing thousands of lives in a single night? He does. He just doesn't submit to it. He doesn't negotiate with it. He doesn't hand it the mic, because leaders don't ask emotion to lead, they demand it follow. They say you can come with me but I drive. Fear gets in the passenger seat, anger goes in the trunk, insecurity gets stuffed in the glove box, because power doesn't ignore these emotions, it dominates them, and domination is not suppression, it's transmutation, it's knowing that sadness can become depth, that rage can become speed, that jealousy can become precision. Tony teaches this over and over again, but most people don't hear it, because they're still looking for peace, when what they need is fire. This obsession with calm, this addiction to chill, has cost you more than you know. You don't need to be calm, you need to be in command. You don't need to silence the storm, you need to ride it, because life doesn't hand victory to the balanced, it hands it to the bold, to the one who can step into any moment, any battlefield, any boardroom, any betrayal, and say this is mine now. Because when you master your emotional state, you master timing, you master presence, you master decisions that others would crumble under. You stop reacting, you start engineering. And let me be clear, this is not something you hope to feel one day. This is a skill. It is forged under pressure, under heartbreak, under loss, under failure. It is sculpted in cold mornings and long nights, when you're not motivated, when your confidence is shattered, but you still act, because your state is yours. Tony doesn't wait to feel good, he moves and feeling good follows. He doesn't wait to feel ready, he becomes ready through motion. This is what no one tells you, the emotional lie of society, that says just be yourself, just feel it out, just go with the flow. But what if the flow is taking you nowhere? What if yourself is untrained? What if your feelings are lying to you? Emotion is a compass, but only if you've calibrated it, otherwise it's chaos. Tony Robbins calibrated his. He built systems for his nervous system, not just his calendar. He wired his brain to associate pain with inaction, and pleasure with progress. So while others are paralyzed by doubt, he's moving. While others are crying about failure, he's extracting fuel from it. That's why he's Tony Robbins. And you're still wondering how to start. Emotion isn't your problem. Emotion is your prison. Until you break the lock and turn it into armor, you want to be dangerous. Learn to walk into your deepest emotional storm, and stay standing, stay sharp, stay moving. Learn to feel everything, and still execute. Learn to use fear as a compass, use rage as a battery, use sadness as a sharpening blade, because the world will hit you, and when it does, you will not rise because you know more, you will rise because you feel more, without being controlled by it. And that's where the game changes. You think life is about what's real, but it's not. Life is about what's perceived, and he who controls perception, controls reality. You've been taught to fight circumstances, to battle outcomes, to wrestle with results, but the smart ones, the dangerous ones, the ones who move nations and control industries, they don't fight the facts, they frame them. Tony Robbins doesn't just speak, he frames the moment. He doesn't just tell stories, he defines the rules of meaning. He walks into the room, and the energy shifts, not because of what he says, but because of how he frames it. The frame is the story, the lens, the context, the container through which everything is understood. And if you don't control the frame, you're already living inside someone else's. Think about every argument you've lost, every deal that slipped, every opportunity that crumbled. It wasn't because you lacked skill, it was because you let someone else define the meaning of the moment. You let them decide who was right, what was real, what mattered. And when you give up the frame, you give up control, because people don't respond to facts, they respond to framing. They don't ask, is this true? They ask, does this make sense to me emotionally? And the frame answers that before the data ever enters their mind. That's why when Tony Robbins gets on stage, he doesn't start with logic, he starts with intensity, with clarity, with energy that frames the room. He becomes the gravity, he defines the terms, he makes sure his frame is the only one that breathes. And once you do that, once you frame the situation, people fall into your structure automatically. The brain is always looking for the strongest frame, not the most accurate one, not the most polite one, the most certain one, because certainty wins. You can walk into a room filled with PhDs and billionaires, and if your frame is stronger, more emotionally grounded, more energetically dominant, you become the one they follow, not because of your resume, but because your frame is more real than theirs. This is what nobody teaches. This is what makes kings out of nobodies, and what makes sheep out of the brilliant. Tony understood this early. when he was broke, when he was laughed at, when he had no name, no power, no backing, but he had certainty, he had intensity, he had a frame so real, so emotionally undeniable, that people could not believe him. He didn't ask them to trust, he didn't wait to be respected, he declared it through energy, through movement, through framing every moment as if he was the cause, never the effect. Because that's what the strong do. They frame reality. They don't react to it. They define what things mean. And once you define meaning, you define emotion. And once you control emotion, you control the game. Look around you. Every advertisement you've ever seen. Every speech you've ever believed. Every story that made you cry, buy trust, hate love. They all worked because someone controlled the frame. Even your internal dialogue, the way you talk to yourself, that's a frame. And most of the time, it's been shaped by your past, by your parents, by the people who hurt you, by a society that wants you obedient. But here's the raw truth. Until you control your own internal frame, you'll be ruled by everyone else's external ones. You'll keep calling yourself tired, and wonder why you lack energy. You'll keep calling yourself broken, and wonder why you can't heal. You'll keep calling your dream unrealistic, and wonder why it never happens. Because language is framing, and framing is identity, and identity is destiny. Tony doesn't just change what people do, he changes what they believe they are. He reframes pain. You want to change your life? Then stop fantasizing about routines and rituals, and start telling yourself the truth. Massive action is not a lifestyle, it's a warfare. It's not romantic, it's ruthless. Tony Robbins didn't rise to global dominance by being gentle with his goals. He didn't whisper to the universe. He didn't make wish boards and hope for alignment. He moved like a weapon. He executed like his life depended on it. Because it did, and yours does too. You just don't realize it yet. You're still thinking tomorrow matters. You're still thinking you have time. That's why you move soft. That's why your plans are polite. That's why your action is coded in comfort. But success doesn't come to the polite. It comes to the relentless. The ones who act like it's life or death. Because in reality, it is. You either act with so much force that life bends around you, or you tiptoe your way to mediocrity, where you rot, explaining to yourself why things never worked out. You don't need more motivation. You need a standard. You don't need more inspiration. You need execution without emotion. Because waiting to feel right, waiting to be ready, waiting to be confident, is how the average live and die unnoticed. Tony Robbins teaches action, but not the filtered, polished, polite version you're used to hearing. He talks about action as an emotional event, a violent break from hesitation, a total internal hijacking of the nervous system. He doesn't ask people to believe, he gets them to move, to shift, to do something physical, because change doesn't start in the head, it starts in the body, in motion, in disruption. Massive action is not a to-do list. It's not about writing things down. It's about getting up while you're still scared, still unsure, still doubting, but moving anyway. It's about making the call while your hands shake. It's about launching the product before it's perfect. It's about saying the truth before your voice even believes it. That's what massive action looks like. It looks like chaos, it feels like panic. And that's why most people never do it, because they think action is supposed to feel good. They think it should be aligned, smooth, balanced, but alignment is a result, not a requirement. You act first, and the mind catches up later. The body understands before the intellect agrees. Tony built his empire not on comfort, but on compulsion. When he decided to master public speaking, he didn't practice once a week. He did 3 seminars a day. Action is sprinting toward the thing that terrifies you, and refusing to stop until it breaks. But here's the part no one will tell you. You won't feel like doing it, and you don't have to, because action doesn't care how you feel. Massive action happens in silence. It happens when you wake up tired and still move. It happens when nobody claps, nobody notices, nobody supports, and you still execute like the world's watching. Because massive action is internal. It's not performance. It's not validation. It's not about how it looks. It's about what it produces. Tony teaches that the universe responds to action, not words, not hopes, not beliefs alone.
But massive, measured, obsessive, repeated, unreasonable action, that's what shifts destiny. That's what makes people unstoppable. Because talent without action is irrelevant. Potential without action is invisible. Ideas without action are a burden. You're not underperforming because you lack clarity. You're underperforming because you still think there's a clean version of action. You're waiting for conditions. You're waiting for perfection. And it's killing your momentum. Tony knows this. That's why he doesn't let people leave his events with notes. He makes them make phone calls, make decisions, end relationships, sign deals, right there in the moment, while the state is high, before the excuses come back. Because he knows if you don't move while you're on fire, you'll die in the smoke. That's the window. That's the edge. That's the place where action lives, in the storm, not the sunshine. Massive action isn't about doing more. It's unfiltered. It's bloody. It's relentless. And that's what makes it powerful. Tony doesn't wait to feel like it. He trained his nervous system to respond to commands, not moods. He programmed his body to obey intensity, not comfort. And that's the real secret. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. And your standards are enforced through action, not beliefs. You say you want success, but what are you doing when it's cold, when it's late, when you're heartbroken, when you're broke, when no one is watching? Because that's the moment that separates legends from losers. Not the good days, not the easy wins, but the brutal mornings when the weight feels unbearable and you act anyway. That's when life takes you seriously. That's when momentum snaps into place, because he treated every moment as leverage, every hour as currency. He wasn't waiting to feel aligned. He made alignment irrelevant. Action made him aligned. Action made him magnetic. Action made him a magnet for momentum. Because when you move like that, the world notices. People feel it. Results start happening too fast for doubt to keep up. And now you're here, still thinking there's a plan. Still thinking if you just organize your calendar better, you'll finally move. Still waiting for the right coach, the right time, the right quote. But nothing is coming. No one is coming. No plan will save you. Only movement will. Movement without apology, without permission, without elegance. You think you need clarity, but clarity comes from chaos. And the only way out of chaos is to act so ruthlessly, so violently, so relentlessly. That clarity becomes irrelevant. That's massive action. And it's the only thing that changes lives. Every second you hesitate, every moment you pause, every time you spin the same thought in your head again and again, you lose ground, you lose leverage, you lose life. Power does not tolerate hesitation. It punishes it, and it rewards immediacy. So stop thinking, start doing, stop watching, start building, stop hoping, start hitting, start moving, start becoming, start creating so much kinetic violence that your old life gets deleted just trying to keep up with you. Because the moment you become that person, that force, that fire, that machine of relentless movement, power will find you. And when it does, it won't care where you came from, only that you were brave enough to act when others waited. Now you've heard the truth. No one handed you. You've been dragged out of comfort, stripped of your excuses, exposed to the law that built empires and burned the weak. Not opinions, not motivation, not theory, but laws. The law of ownership, the law of identity, the law of discipline, the law of leverage, the law of pressure, the law of movement. You've been lied to your entire life, told that success is about feeling good, about healing endlessly, about waiting for alignment, about trusting the universe. But the universe doesn't trust you, not until you prove yourself in blood, in sweat, in decisions no one sees, in standards so ruthless they make your old self suffocate. You were never broken. You were never blocked. You were simply asleep, drowning in a world that rewards softness, numbness, fake positivity, and delay masked as self-care. But now you know. Now you've been called. And the call isn't to feel better. It's to become dangerous. Dangerous to your excuses. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to every part of you that thought maybe later was noble. Dangerous to every low standard that smiled at your weakness and called it love. You don't need another breakthrough. You need dominance over your state, over your patterns, over your story, over your circle, over your environment, over your mind, over the enemy you keep feeding inside your own skull. Tony Robbins didn't build an empire on good vibes. He built it on war, internal war, psychological war, a war against the version of him that was built by pain and fear and scarcity. And you have to do the same, because no one's coming to fix your life. No one's coming to rescue you. No one's coming to give you permission. You have to rise without applause, without certainty, without a guarantee. You have to rise anyway, because if you don't, then all this was entertainment and you were just another spectator pretending to be a warrior, another listener too scared to become a doer, another dreamer seduced by clarity but allergic to execution. But if you do rise, if you do burn the comfort, if you do take every word and hammer it into action, then there's nothing that can stop you. Not the economy, not your past, not your DNA, not your circumstances, not even the version of you that's still screaming to play it safe, because power respects only the one who takes it, not the one who waits, not the one who meditates, not the one who contemplates, the one who moves, who builds, who leads. So don't close this chapter with inspiration. Close it with reconstruction and build a life so undeniable that even fear starts to fear you. Now move.